The 9/11 attacks inspired a generation of Americans to join the military and fight for their country. Tonight, the story of two such young men, strangers to each other, who would later join up and become elite Army Rangers. Their fates would collide on a darkened ridge line in Afghanistan. One would die, celebrated as an American hero. The other, who you're about to meet, would be left to carry the burden of a tragic mistake that would turn his life inside out. It's the kind of war story no soldier ever wants to tell.
What I could barely make out is human figures.
But Stephen Elliott is telling it anyway about the night in Afghanistan when he believes he shot and killed a fellow soldier. What made you fire?
We had been coming out of an enemy ambush, coupled with the fact that we had no knowledge of friendly in the area.
Friendly fire has always been a part of war, but few cases have grabbed the headlines like the 2004 shooting of NFL player turned Army Ranger Pat Tillman. Now, Stephen Elliott is making headlines of his own, stepping from the shadows to say he thinks he shot Tillman.
In my mind, you're not considering even the possibility that if there's muzzle flashes, if there's human figures or shapes adjacent to those muzzle flashes, well, they have to be bad guys. There couldn't be good guys.
And so he and another soldier fired. The forensic investigation determined that Pat Tillman was killed by one of two weapons, one of which was the caliber that you were firing. So where does that leave you in terms of what happened and whether you ultimately took his life?
Like, that forensic knowledge hasn't changed my sense of responsibility for my portion of the tragedy.
The road leading up to Elliott's painful public admission was littered with the debris of his unraveling emotional state.
Basically, if I didn't drink, I couldn't sleep. Reliving components of the event or reliving scenes of war in the form of a nightmare was very, very common.
In the midst of it, he got married.
Honestly, I didn't even understand the true depth of what he went through until very recently.
It was only when Elliott recognized the PTSD tearing him apart that he decided to get help, and he and his wife decided to share his story for the sake of other suffering vets.
While our circumstances were perhaps unique because of their tie to Pat, they're not unique at all with respect to a lot of the trauma that people are trying to work their way through.
He soon found a way to reach out to other traumatized vets as their advocate in this Olympia, Washington courtroom.
Truth is, you've earned a lot of credit with the courts.
Thurston County Veterans Court is a diversion program for criminal defendants with conditions related to their military service.
Welcome to Veterans Court.
Presiding Judge Brent Buckley asked Elliott to help.
I thought it would be really helpful for the folks to hear his story and realize that, as bad as their experiences were, here's somebody who's made a real success of their life in the face of those very same experiences.
This was ostensibly to help other veterans. Was it helpful to you?
Probably the biggest benefit, it cures you on some level of the myth of isolation.
As he journeys along his road to healing and redemption, Elliott accepts that what happened will always be a part of him, but he says it won't define him. There were ultimately two shooters who were aiming where Pat Tillman was. If someone came out with the evidence right now that said, lo and behold, it was the other guy's bullet, not yours, would that change anything?
No, because I still fired there, and I still made that choice. All of us felt a level of responsibility of, it's just like, well, I wouldn't want, if that was the case, I wouldn't want
Take your time.
If that was the case, I wouldn't want Trevor to bear that burden by himself.
You were both firing in that same location.
Yeah.
The Trevor he refers to as Trevor Alders, who, according to Army investigators, had also fired. Elliott ultimately left the Army but did not face official charges over the shooting. He has, however, faced some sharp criticism of his actions that night from some of the soldiers who served with him. We're back in a moment with the latest on Hurricane Gonzalo.